Chapter 51. Not one, but two. I felt such an intense level of pain that I would have blacked out if I didn't have pain resistance activated. While I was targeting the enormous moving landmass of a beast below, something else that was moving in the dark almost took my life. Were it not for the many defense skills like Diamond Skin, Hard Body, Golden Halo, and many more that layered my body at all times, it might not be only an arm I was missing. The pain was increasing as Ultra Regeneration and Guardian's Light continued to fall onto my body and regenerate my arm at a quick pace. The formation of bones and muscle was excruciating, and I could only focus on flying and using instant transfer against the beast that began moving towards me again. The hunters with flying beasts on our side had met with their opponents in the skies, and there was nobody else to lend a hand as everyone had their hands full. I kept my eyes on this grotesque mosquito that moved at quick speeds, dodging the stinger coming towards me by a hair's breadth each time as I waited to move my focus from the regenerating arm and retaliate with my own skills. Boom! Boom! I was under huge pressure as green beams of light continued to come out of the wide jaws of the turtle and decimate the area around me. It had focused its attacks on me and continued throwing them out as the stinger of the mosquito continued to try and pierce me once more. Frigid impermanence was not hitting the target in front of me as it moved too fast. The moment the skill was casted, it would be at another position. My arm finally finished regenerating as I felt the movements of my fingers again, and my full focus was placed on the fast-moving enemy while evading the poisonous green blasts coming from below. Multiple dark spears surrounded me as I casted Spear of Destiny multiple times, and miniature tornadoes appeared all around me to reduce the movements of this beast. The rough winds affected its flight as it relentlessly tried to get near me, and the game of cat-mouse while dodging poisonous lasers resumed in the skies. Lightning Hand was putting his entire focus onto the enemies around him as he faced two rank B titans. He was swinging a large war hammer that danced with lightning, each swing causing tendrils of blue electricity to smash onto nearby enemies and push them back. He swung his hammer onto the head of one of the two titans as his face looked to the skies where a deadly battle was taking place. The forces of the beast horde on the ground was in all-out war with hunters, with admirals and those in high positions screaming out commands for the hunters. Every second, large groups of hunters holding tower shields were holding back the onslaught of beasts, while powerful skills were casted towards them. Balls of fire, sharp wind blades, and flaming rocks flew towards the ranks of monsters trying to break through the defenses. The rank of hunters were in charge of holding back any titans that appeared so the defense line does not get broken through. Their job was crucial as even one position that was lost would cause tons of casualties. He swung his war hammer to the remaining titan near him as its head burst in the shock of lightning, and he moved towards an even bigger boss that was making its way to the defense line. A huge black eagle got to this large beast first, its sharp talons shredding the defenses of the beast as it used its feathers as sharp swords to wound it. A roar came out of Lightning Hand's mouth as Herald of Lightning was casted, his hammer emanating wild power as balls of lightning flew forward with his swing, smashing onto the chest of the titan and knocking it back. The black eagle swooped in with its wide wings and dealt the killing blow, decapitating the head of the injured beast. Lightning Hand breathed roughly as he nodded at the figure of the golden-haired woman on this eagle as they both moved towards other locations on the battlefield, their eyes occasionally looking up to the terrifying sight of tornadoes, beams of green light, and dark spears that were being thrown around in the skies. Their fights were dangerous, but nothing as brutal as what the man in the center of attacks of two beasts higher than rank A was facing. Steel Mikhail was about to enter a bright orange monolith that represented a rank A dungeon in a neighboring city near the Empire's capital. His team was waiting for him when he turned around and looked to the south. There were only clear blue skies, but he felt that something of great significance had begun over there. His heart began pounding when he thought of the beast surpassing rank A that hunters might now be facing. He wanted to be at the center himself, but his strength was better suited to prevent dungeon breaks across the Empire. This dungeon was already their third one today that they were called to. If they weren't here, then they didn't have to wait for the beasts to come from the outside to reap the lives of their people. He reaffirmed his belief as he wished the best of the fight occurring in the south, as he and his team placed their hands on the glowing monolith and disappeared. The game of chase continued in the air as the grotesque mosquito continued to dodge. The rushing spears and explosive blasts of cold elements as it maneuvered around the rapidly rotating winds of miniature tornado. I had to evade and dodge the strikes of the enemy in the air, while also avoiding the poisonous blasts from the titan of a beast on the ground. My energy was still just as boundless though, my spells continuing to be thrown out while the speed the grotesque mosquito was slowing down. It let out a grating howl as its frustration reached the peak and its body began. Glowing in a green light, my skills continued to rain down on the beast to prevent whatever it was trying to do. The green light surrounding its body became denser as it became faster and came at me with much more vigor. I thought about how I could get an attack to hit this beast as I watched it speed towards me. The only time it stopped moving even for an instant was when it attacked my body for the first time. My heart raced as a wild idea spread, and I recklessly implemented it as I saw the stinger come towards me again. Time seemed to slow down as I shifted my body sideways but did not dodge completely. The stinger piercing through the right side of my stomach as my hands reached out to grab a hold of the beast, which had its needle-like appendage lodged in my body briefly. 3 dark pulsating spears penetrated the body of the insect in front of me as a destructive blast of ice elements bloomed between us and blew both of us apart. Boom. I was prepared for the shock, Guardian's Light and Ultra Regeneration already being casted multiple times as I looked at the injured insect that leaked green pus all over its body. It was wobbling in the air as it began to pull itself down towards the humongous spiked turtle below, which seemed to have become enraged as more than 3 blasts of poisonous green beams were shot towards me. Chapter 52. The Swordmaster. Kazuhiko looked at the opposing hunters before him as his katana thirsted for more blood. The inherent skill that gave him the strength to be where he was today, Swordmaster, seemed to be calling out for more bloodshed. Yet he saw the faces of terrified hunters that were putting their lives on the line and hesitated. These were the hunters whose countries fell under the tyranny of the Black Dragon and were forced to fight on the front lines of the war that continued to be waged. He looked down on the weak wills of these hunters and wanted to go back to the simpler times when he would cut down monsters without batting an eye. But it was human beings standing opposite him this time, making his blade hesitate. He didn't like this feeling. He understood their reasons, but that still wouldn't stop him from looking down on them. He was frustrated as he thought about what he should do while he watched the messy fight playing out, and the reptiles standing on 2 feet in the far back of the battlefield. They looked like a mixture of humans and lizards, having the humanoid figure with scaly skin and a thick tail coming out from behind. They held jagged blades on their hands as they struck down deserters and any hunters standing against them. The excited smile returned to Kazuhiko's face as he looked at these monsters that looked strong, especially the larger Dragonman hybrid commanding them in the back. His katana was pulsating, ready to go, and he made his choice. He would strike down anything that stood against him, but he'll be softer on the enemies from the same species as him. He would try his best not to make critical strikes that would take their lives, and at most incapacitate them. But as for those beasts, his mouth curved up delightfully as his blade vibrated and he disappeared. A nearby hunter was knocked out cold and fell down with a thump, and a lizard man's head flew off as blade dance was activated. This was a rankest skill he had come across months back, and was one that he loved using the most. His figure moved across the battlefield as he carried out a dance between a man and a sword. He felt the rush as his body moved in an elegant fashion while serrating the necks of his enemies. Everywhere he passed, blood flowed. The lizard men only saw a flash before their heads left their bodies, and the hunters felt a deep impact that knocked them out cold in the chaotic battlefield. A surprising scene unfolded where an entire field of more than 10 meters went silent. Blood was gushing in the air as only a single man stood in the middle, rejoicing as the blade dance finished. The unexpected emptiness caught the eyes of one of the beast's commander, a huge lizard that looked closer to a Komodo dragon as it moved across. A long forked tongue slid out of its mouth as it sensed everything around it, its blazing eyes honing in on the only human smiling joyfully where his brethren lay dead. Someone dared to stand against them. Its thick legs smacked the ground as the jaws that could tear the skies snapped towards Kazuhiko. Kazuhiko looked at this large figure barreling down on him as his blood pumped. Yes, yes, yes! This was what he wanted. This was a fight. Dark light enveloped him as his body expanded more than twice his size. The katana he was holding now looking more like a knife. With a wicked smile, Dominator's sword wave was casted as his katana became enveloped in a dark light, and he collided with the large beast. Swish. An uncomfortable sound reverberated throughout the battlefield as Kazuhiko appeared behind the sizable beast and his figure began reducing to normal. The beast wasn't making a sound as its body was separated cleanly in half, all that it left behind being a corpse, turs of sparkling cores, and a skill book. The ecstatic hunter put the loot away as he found himself the center of attention in the huge battlefield where forces of the United Federation were going against the army of the Black Dragon and its subjugated hunters. With the reinforcement of forces from the Blessed Empire, they pushed back the opposing hunters and made the beasts, their true enemies, join the fight. The consensus among the hunters in the battlefield was to target the beasts and not each other. As they were all fighting for the same thing, one side didn't want the deaths of their countrymen that were under the rule of the Black Dragon. The others wanted to save their people from the terror of the same beast, yet there were no good options. Unless the Black Dragon was killed, they had to fight. But who can take down such a terrifying beast? Kazuhiko wasn't fazed by the attention, and wanted more of it in fact from the upper ranks of these beasts. He looked to the infuriated lizards that were rushing towards him as he thought, just how many of your kin do I have to kill before you come out? He wanted to face off against the beast that hunters found themselves hopeless against. He wanted a fight with that winged lizard that kept on flaunting its authority. He might meet his death, but so what? A man has to live a thrilling life. The reckless Kazuhiko continued his onslaught of the beasts, only wishing for the main event to come sooner. The war continued on multiple fronts, in the chaotic battlefield with the horde of beasts led by not just one, but two monsters surpassing Ranka. A deadly fight continued. A retreating and heavily injured beast was rushing from the skies and heading to a lower altitude while trying to evade the onslaught of dark spears and lightning. Its wings had taken injuries that affected its speed, causing more attacks to land on its body. The problem was, these attacks were endless. The oversized mosquito looked at the terrifying man above it as it grew enraged at the state it was in. She was a queen that had many subjects bowing their heads to. She was someone that held tremendous power and ruled over millions. Now she was forced to come down to some unknown world and be thrashed around like this. She had no time to think as she continued evading the damaging attacks and focused on regaining her mobility. She went down towards the stupid mephitic turtle to gain some respite from the enemy's attacks, but she didn't know if she would make it there in time. She hated the situation she was in. She hated those bastards that were forcing her to do this. As for this human, just how could someone this powerful exist in such a small world? Her fear reached an all-time high as she saw the enemy continue to evade the venomous blasts and rush towards her with endlessly dangerous attacks. She gritted her maxillae as her innate power activated once again and she rushed towards the coming enemy. It will either be my death or yours. Chapter 53, Interminable Energy. The air around me trembled from the amount of skills that continued to rush down towards the retreating beast. Dark spears filled the air and arcs of lightning were dancing about, just waiting to jump on the figure of the grotesque mosquito the moment it faltered. Its injuries increased as more and more attacks were able to land, and it screamed indignantly before stopping its retreat and coming towards me, its body emanating a dangerous light. Good come. I accounted for many possibilities as I continued to cast Spear of Destiny and arc lightning towards the beast. The moment the impact was about to occur, I activated instant transfer and disappeared from its sight, materializing right behind it where I released multiple frigid impermanence casts. Boom! Boom! The impact rocked the skies as I continued to cast more skills towards the insect. Not a second was given though, as I felt the full impact of the poisonous green light smash into me, dyeing my entire body a dark shade of green as blisters began to form on my skin. The turtle had aimed for the moment I let out killer blows against the insect to throw its poisonous attacks. My rapidly decaying skin started to become normal again as Guardian's Light and Ultra Regeneration were activated multiple times. I continued to dodge the remaining incoming pillars of poison as I looked at the body of the insect. Only a thin exoskeleton was left, but it was still hanging on. I let out a furious howl at this immense vitality of the beast and rained more dark spears down on it. The spears rushed into the emaciated figure and stabbed in every possible position, turning the insect into a porcupine. I finished it all off with a frigid impermanence that blasted apart any muscle or bones still holding its body together, causing an explosion of cores and a golden glowing skill book to appear in the skies. The cores quickly disappeared into one of my storage rings as I grabbed the skill book and brought it to my chest. The attacks from below had increased in frequency and took all of my attention in order not to get blasted again. The skill book, whose name I couldn't even get a chance to read, transformed into particles of light that flew inside my body, something new appearing among the skills in the panel. The huge beast below was fully enraged after seeing the death of its compatriot and let out a thundering roar that stopped the movements of the many beasts in the battlefield. The beasts, whether grounded or on the skies, all turned their eyes in my location with heavy blood apparent. The flying beasts abandoned any hunters they were fighting against and swooped towards me in the skies. Some hunters got a brief respite and looked at my figure worryingly, but could not even get near me, unless they wanted to be blasted to death by the never-ending pillars of green light still flying toward me. I could see an injured black eagle heading towards my direction that I sternly shook my head to. I had countless spells I could continue casting and was nowhere close to being done. The addition of a few hundred beasts around me would only delay the death of this remaining titan. I looked to the enormous green turtle in the distance while evading the attacks it sent my way and used instant transfer to a position right above it. The transfer gave me a few seconds where I checked my panel to see what the new skill entailed. Noah Osman. Occupation, Hunter, Vitality, 300 plus 30, Focus, none. Strength, 300 plus 40, Skills, C. Arcanist's Sphere of Protection, 100, C. Camouflage, 100, C. Aura of Haste, 100, C. Explosive Rune, 100, C. Life Essence, 100, C. Increased Penetration, 100, C. Regeneration, 100, C. Whirlwind, 95, IC Smite, 100, C. Gracefulness, 100, C. Precision, 100, C. Adamant, 100, C. Sharpen, 100, C. War Cry, 100, C. Retaliation, 100, C. King's Rage, 100, C. Military Tactics, 100, C. Unpredictable, 100, C. Elemental Damage, 100, B. Giant's Strength, 100, B. Stealth, 100, B. Miniature Tornado, 100, B. Golden Halo, 100, B. Doom Bolt, 100, B. Lightfoot, 88, B. Windrider, 88, B. Rigorous, 88, B. Shadow Veil, 87, B. Wild Heart, 87, B. Emboldened Ferocity, 68, B. Eagle Eyes, 56, B. Greater Cold Penetration, 55, B. Cold Fire, 55, B. Greater Flame Penetration, 34, B. Burning Soul, 34, B. Elementalist, 34, B. Hard Body, 34, B. Diamond Skin, 34, B. Elemental Mirror, 34, A. Flight, 71, A. Frigid Impermanence, 88, A. Instant Transfer, 55, A. Infernal Purge, 64. A. Ultra Regeneration, 29, A. Spear of Destiny, 37, A. Arc Lightning, 23, A. Expansion, 3, A. Pain Resistance, 11, S. Volcanic Eruption, 1, Equipment, 6x Searing of Storage, 3x Bearing of Storage, B. Adept Staff, B. Dual-Coated Boots, B. Striking Cap, A. Fairy's Wings, A. Armament of the Commander, A. Emperor's Boots, A. Ring of Storage. Volcanic Eruption, S. Rank. I looked at the details of the terrifying skill as my heart palpitated at the thought of it. My figure evaded the venomous blasts that had found my position once more as I looked at the beast below me. Its large figure soon absconded my sight as crowds of flying beasts neared me. I looked to the darkening skies of the beasts as a devilish smile couldn't help but appear on my face. You all are fucked. A worrying scene was carrying itself out in the eyes of Elizabeth. A single man was moving through the skies dodging dangerous blasts of green light while thousands of beasts flocked towards him. White wings of light were outstretched from his back as he stood in the air, the picture imprinting itself on the minds of all the people here for years to come. An eccentric painter could spend a lifetime making a piece of art that wouldn't be able to describe what they were seeing. The picture of the converging beasts in the air and the noxious turtle blasting attacks from the ground was coming to a standstill as the man rose his hands and winds of erratic energy began to leak out. The whole world seemed like it was shaking as a gruttle voice rang out of the battlefield, volcanic eruption. It felt like the skies had shattered and a thundering sound boomed out as a transparent outline of a large mountain appeared in the skies. The peak of the mountain that should have been pointing up was facing down towards the beasts below. Thick smoke coming out of it as it began to rumble and shake the air around it. Childish laughter rang out from Noah as the rumbling heightened and a wondrous eruption occurred. Boom! As if the end of the world was here, the translucent mountain in the sky spit out volleys of apocalyptic magma and flames. The rupture lets out molten masses of earth that spread out to cover all the beasts surrounding Noah if the magma did not melt them away. Hot gases and ferocious flames jumped out to grab their lives. Elizabeth stood atop her eagle with her mouth wide open as she watched the scene. All the winged beasts that were anywhere near Noah when he casted the skill below him were decimated. The overflowing magma spiraled down from the sky and washed over the beasts on the ground below, wails and shrieks ringing out as if a scene from hell was playing itself out. The humongous turtle's shell shined a dense green light as the molten rocks and extremely scorching gases and flames reached it. Its large head and limbs quickly retracted into its body as the attack thundered down. Boom! The green blinding light pervaded the surroundings as the beast withstood the skill with its extreme defenses, but great damage could be seen on its bubbling hard shell. As the scene calmed down, it roared indignantly in the air as its limbs and head flailed out. Having taken a pink color after being subjugated to the thermogenic earth and flames, the area around it was completely laid to waste with no other beast but it left standing. The hunters that were fighting for their lives looked at this scene in stupefaction. The beasts they were fighting against trembled in fear as they saw droves of others like them wiped out in a blink. No words could be said as silence reigned supreme in the battlefield. Chapter 54, Stupefied. Amidst all the chaos and war occurring all over the world, there was a small piece of land in a dense forest not too far from the Empire and the United Federation. In this piece of land existed a small village of less than 100 people. The village seemed full of life as plots of lands were glowing a vibrant green and a few animals could be seen being herded into a farm. A clear spring was flowing through the village providing clean water for the happily playing children. A game of tag was currently happening and the giggles in the area came to a stop when one of the children fell down and scra.p.ed their knee. The boy had small tears forming in his eyes as he bit his lips and tried keeping his mouth closed. A sweet laughter rang out as a young woman walked from the distance and bent down towards the boy, her hands releasing a white light as they neared the scraped knee. In a few seconds, the scrape disappeared and the boy rose up full of energy once more, completely forgetting what just happened as he went running again. "Thank you, Sister Sophia." The boy left his thanks as he went back to his groups of friends, leaving the young woman to pick up her bucket of water and continue heading to the clear stream. The woman was in her late teen years, showing a head full of white hair that flowed down to her back. She had white and tender skin with crystal blue eyes that seemed to smile to anyone who looked at them. She had reached the stream and was putting in some water when there was a change in the air. Her blue eyes underwent a transformation and became blank white as a bland voice different from her own escaped her lips. "A pivotal moment is approaching. Preparations are nearly complete." The change didn't last too long, and the girl's eyes turned blue again as she continued with her task. A bewildered look had appeared on her face before it quickly changed to understanding as she placed the bucket above her head, dirtying her clear white hair as she moved towards one of the plots of farms. The small isolated village had a transparent blue screen covering the area all around it. It was common knowledge that nothing could come into the village, and the villagers themselves could not venture out. It seemed like a small self-sustainable paradise that would not be tainted by the horrors of the world. One man above, a colossal turtle below. The turtle was roaring in fury to the skies as it looked at the small human that had a calm expression on his face. Destruction of this scale was only possible when a being used the entirety of their energy and potential. This fight was over. The human would stand no chance after this. It had observed the extravagant amount of energy and attacks the human had thrown out. Even if he were of the same rank as he was, he should be running out of energy, especially after that horrendous attack that nearly tore through his hard shell. The mephitic turtle would not let the human recover as it decided to use its full premescence to release the deadliest attack and obliterate the figure above it. It had already used up more than half of its essence trying to snipe this enemy away all this time, but most of his attacks missed, or even if they hit they weren't too effective as the human quickly healed himself. This human was the only threat in this battlefield. The rest of the ants struggling in front of it were nothing in his eyes, and just his body would be enough to crush them. After he was finished with them, he would meet with that fearsome guy that he could already sense the aura of and finish their assignment here. Maybe after all of this was over they would be given some freedom. It shook itself out of its reverie and focused on finishing the task at hand. Its limbs sunk into the earth as it absorbed any energy around it, its head facing up and unnaturally opening its jaws so wide that it seemed his head was split in half. At the center of his open jaws, a dark green ball of light began to condense and grew bigger by the second. Its power was unnerving as the mephitic turtle tried to balance the destructive energies while mulating even more. It looked at this fearsome human that had put up such a strenuous fight and took down the insect queen. It would remember that calm fac crack, crack, crack. Its eyes drained of all color as sounds as if the sky was breaking rang out again. In the air, 3 rumbling mountains similar to the one from before had appeared. The temperature rose to extreme degrees at the appearance of these transparent mountains. As people who thought they couldn't be any more shocked became astounded at the incredulous sight in the sky, the mephitic turtle trembled as it saw the 3 rumbling mountains cover its eyesight. How is this possible? How is this possible? Nobody should have this level of energy. Unless. It looked at the figure in the sky in fear. The blast it was preparing in its wide open jaws dissipated as a croaking voice left its jaws. Wait. Boom. The skies cried and the earth rumbled. Molten rocks and gaseous winds ravaged the field as any living thing remotely close was turned to ash. The hunters that were very far from the center of the beast horde were pushed back by the hot winds as the beasts they were engaging ran around disorderly. The destruction continued for the next few seconds as volcanic ash covered the sight of everything around it. Noah looked at the devastation below him and saw the glistening piles of cores and a golden skill book in the field of flowing molten earth. Besides the mangled body of the turtle, the cores and skill book floated atop the lava unharmed. He laughed at the sight of destruction he had caused and used instant transfer to go down and grab the loot. He was thinking about just how far he had grown after he took down these beasts. He could feel his mindset changing ever since he witnessed the destruction they caused at a large scale and the confidence he felt now after taking down 2 of the most powerful beasts he had come across. He reminded himself that confidence was good, but to be careful not to get in over his head. He neared the loot on the ground when a piercing pain suddenly struck his head similarly to some time before. It wasn't as bad this time as he stabilized himself and placed the cores and book in his storage ring. As he rose into the air again, the headache subsided and he opened his eyes only to see it wasn't the scene of destruction he was in a moment before. He was in a blank white room where a single blue hexagonal prism was slowly spinning in the center. His eyes moved around him as he realized he could see but couldn't find any part of his body in this place. There were 3 distinct smaller white rooms attached to the main one he was in where blurry figures of light could be made out. One of the rooms held a figure of a burly man weakly shining with a golden light. Another held a thin figure who only had a wild smile visible, and the last room had a small figure with long white hair that seemed to emanate extreme warmth. A voice rang out as he looked around confused. Hello. Chapter 55, a succinct introduction. I looked at the rotating hexagonal prism in the blank room as I could feel my heart that wasn't physically in this space start pounding. I heard the bland voice that called out the greeting in my head as I looked away from the smaller 3 rooms and replied, "What, air? Who are you and where am I?" "I am, well, that is not consequential at the moment. You are in an isolated space where we can converse for the next minute. There is still a matter you have to finish before we can start the next phase of plans." I absorbed the words ringing out as I thought and asked, "What matter do I have to take care of first?" "The being plaguing the lands you call the United Federation. Its death would spell the dissolution of the enemy's plans, the regaining of control, and the beginning of our retaliation." Enemies? Retaliation? My non-existent heart was beating rapidly as I thought about all of this and asked one more thing before the scene in front of me disappeared. "Why did you pull me into this space?" The voice was quiet for a second before the static reply came out. "Besides telling you of the next direction you need to hurry to, it is to prepare you for the addition to the system of power that will occur with the death of the last major beast. You hold the most essence currently, so you will be the most affected. The next point to keep in mind is that the real fight will not be fought here. Do not become complacent because of the level of strength of your current enemies. The words rang out clearly, and I could even feel a semblance of emotion from the static tone near the end. I was about to speak once more, but the scene began fading from my sight. The voice rang out for the last time. Be sure to save the reckless child. I opened my eyes once more, this time finding myself on the skies of the battlefield. The ground beneath me was still filled with thick smoke and burning rocks, with much of the beast horde decimated. I placed my hand on my chest to feel my actual body as I recalled the sensation of not having any limbs or body in the blank space a moment ago. I had to wrap up and hurry to the United Federation to take down another one of these beasts, and after that, I should be able to get more answers, retaliation. My blood felt like it was boiling as I thought of the possibility of getting back against the enemies that tormented us so much. To get there, though, there was still another beast to take care of. Before finishing the battle and cleaning up the thousands of beasts that were now without a leader, I pulled out the skill book I placed in my ring and read the description. The skill was Summon Virulent Abomination, a horrid monstrosity that only leaves destruction at its wake stands by your side. The skill was one of the very few summon skills I had come across, and I was excited to see just what type of beast would come out of a rank S skill. I looked to the thousands of panicking beasts below me as I watched the golden skill book become absorbed into my body, and I casted Summon Virulent Abomination for the first time. A large malachite runic circle appeared and began expanding in the sky, releasing a flash of blinding green light as a terrible beast appeared. It had a thick layer of visible muscles wrapping all over its large body, dark green wings that looked similarly to a bat ruptured out of its back as pus leaked out. It looked like a very muscly, fat, and bloated humanoid that was more than 5 meters large. It stood imposingly in the air, the large and grotesque wings keeping it afloat as it howled out roar. The thundering shout that seemed to scream an arrival blasted throughout the battlefield. I looked at this piece of work as I let out a command in my thoughts, and the beast disappeared from my sight. It had reached the groups of beasts on the ground in an instant, its large wings leaving gusts of wind and rotten smell boom. It landed with a tremendous impact that bloodied all the beasts nearby as it continued moving at a speed even faster than my current speed while using flight. It jumped into the middle of the next group of thousands of beasts as its body contracted, before an eruption of toxic green gas pervaded outwards for an area of more than 10 meters, melting away anything standing into puddles of pus no matter what rank they were. The grotesque summon continued to move across the battlefield unhindered, as it ripped apart any groups of monsters standing in its way. It was so fast and efficient that the clear rate I had when taking down beasts before then could not even compare. It didn't matter if the beasts were rank C or A, when its noxious gas spread out from its body or it spun around using its wings as blades. Everything fell down. I looked at this horrible beast as it spread its terror across the battlefield, and I wanted another one. I was shocked at the power and strength of these two rank S skills I had just gained. The first one caused a literal effuspangy volcanic eruption that decimated anything within an area of 25 meters, and this lovable poisonous summon continued to rip apart any monsters it came across as if they were paper. I could only summon one, but my heart was palpitating at the idea of summoning things just as terrifying and just watching them do all the work. I shook myself out of my dreams as I flew down towards the defense line where the hunters were still taking care of the remaining beasts and lent my aid. When I was close enough to the ground, I could hear the shouts of cheering and happiness as skills continued to fly in the air. A woman on a black eagle had the brightest smile on her face as the beast she stood on flew down to help the hunters below. A man whose body coiled with lightning was swinging around a large hammer as boisterous laughs came out from him. I looked at all of this as I rained down more skills to take care of any remaining stragglers near the defense line as I let my newly gained summon continue its rampage behind us on the beasts that were currently running away. It was decimating them with such ease that I wondered how it would fare if we fought against another one of these rank S beasts right now. I didn't have too much time on hand, so after I saw the crowds of monsters thinning out and the hunters below breathing easy, I went towards Elizabeth to relay a message. I couldn't afford to revel in the victory right now, and had to begin rushing to the United Federation in an instant, I was wondering about this reckless hunter that gained the recognition of whoever that being was, and whether they had anything closely similar to my power. Chapter 56. Pressed for time. There weren't too many losses of hunters and soldiers on the battlefield because of the continuous support of high-ranking hunters, and the fact that I took the focus and attention of the two most powerful beasts the entire time. Healing mages were tending to the injured, and government squads specialized for resource retrieval were going around the field collecting cores, skill books, and items. The poisonous summon had finished decimating the ranks of beasts after a while, and the only thing left on the other half of the battlefield were areas of molten rocks that were still bubbling with heat and corpses of corroded beasts. I told Elizabeth that I was going to rush towards the United Federation, and was met with shock as she asked me, "Are you not exhausted?" I laughed at this very normal question and chose not to answer as I gave my acknowledgement to Lightning Hand and the other officials at the command center before leaving. I asked for the country where the battle against the Black Dragon was currently taking place, and the intelligence officials gave me the coordinates of the country that was called King's Harbor. I knew the general direction to fly to so that I could get there the quickest time possible, but having the actual coordinates on my phone tremendously helped. I looked at the blue dotted location and how far I was as I itched to begin my journey right away. Even flying at my top speed, I didn't know how many hours it would take for me to get there. Would I make it on time before thousands continued to lose their lives? I told Elizabeth to relay my words as I flew off from the command center and landed on the large neck of the poisonous summon. The rolling muscles on its neck felt like stones as I sat down on it, commanding to see if it can stop emitting the noxious fumes coming off its body, as I could already see my skin turning an unhealthy shade of green. The beast complied, and its imposing air reduced while I casted Guardian's Light multiple times to remove the negative effects and completely heal my body. I saw that this rank S summon was much faster than my flight skill, so it would be my mode of transportation towards the United Federation. Its extended bat wings vibrated as we disappeared in the air. Quickly speeding towards a whole other battlefield, Kazuhiko had pulled back from the battlefield while letting out rough breaths. He had gone on a rampage and taken down many rank A and B bosses, but the beast he wanted to fight had yet to appear. He was running low on mana after rushing about these past few hours that he forced himself to come out of the battlefield and recuperate his energy. He wanted to live freely and fight all day long, but his body betrayed him. He had to get stronger. Much stronger until he could fight day and night without feeling exhausted. When he finished killing another beast and felt the state of his body though, he called another rank A hero to take over his position as he moved to the back. He didn't want to face the Black Dragon like this and die a meaningless death with no thrill of battle. His katana laid on his lap as he stroked it and closed his eyes. He would regain his fighting power first, before going for another bout that would surely call forth the terrible beast. An enormous beast was slumbering in the middle of a huge forest surrounded by large trees that seemed like small twigs compared to its body. The beast had a voluminous layer of dark scales spreading throughout its body, with beautiful wings what were tucked in and a long spiked tail moving about behind it. A thrumming sound could be heard as the beast showed a painful expression on its face before dark smoke covered its body as it began to reduce in size. Rumblings rang out as the dark smoke proliferated the area, and soon enough a new figure was standing in the forest. It now had an appearance of a human male, seemingly in his 50s. He had tanned dark skin, and a pulsating scar could be seen on his chest. This was the Black Dragon that currently had his forces waging war on the countries of the United Federation. He had willingly chosen to descend to this lower world after making a deal for the independence of his dukedom. As long as he was successful in this endeavor, his people would be free from persecution. He felt bad for the natives of this planet as he was doing the same thing that was done to them not too far back, but he had to do this. His people continued to suffer every day, and he wanted some relief for them. He will bear the burden for the deaths of these other beings, but he had to complete his end of the deal and hope that they do the same. Someone of his level coming down to this lower world had its drawbacks, especially because those assholes chose not to provide the essence required to descend, and he had to use his own. This caused an injury that was taking some time to recover from. It was why he wasn't able to move as freely after his descent, and had to depend on his subordinates and other demi-humans to increase his influence. He had changed to this human form to more easily control the energies in his body. With the advent of this injury, it would only take a few more days to heal. And he should be back to his peak rank S strength. When that time comes, he would steel his powerful heart and make them all submit or face death. Emotions had to be kept out of the picture. He was doing this for his people, his daughter, for himself. He would pity what was about to happen to these natives, but that was it. More than half a day had passed since he received updates that a powerful human was standing against them and had caused the deaths of many of his subordinates, but he didn't want to move again. Until more of his injuries were healed, he was about to check in on the progress of his forces when an aura of someone he had felt after he descended disappeared. Not too long after, another aura seemed to also fade away in a blink. He became perplexed as he closed his eyes and spread out his energy, but still couldn't feel the auras. What had happened? It was much easier to sense those of the same level as you on planets like these, so he was aware of the two familiar auras that were also here, but now both of them were gone. His perplexity turned to somberness as he could not understand why. But an impossible idea had rooted itself in his head as black smoke roiled out and he went back to his dragon form. His healing would have to be pushed back. He needed to see what was going on. Chapter 57, Faster. The black dragon flew through the skies and neared the large battlefield where many beings were dying every minute. His arrival spread fear to many of the hunters below as the large figure's shadow passed above their heads. He circled the skies of the battlefield and checked on the progress of the fight and saw his forces gradually being pushed back. He snorted as he flew back and landed near one of his generals, asking for the updates. The war was at a stalemate until one human began rampaging and taking out the leaders of his quadrants. They could only surround this human in groups and tire him out, but many deaths occurred because of him. He had not been seen in the field for a few hours when he popped up a few hours later, went on another killing spree and then disappeared again. This was why their forces were being pushed back currently. Just one human thinks they can change the course of things right now. The dragon thought disdainfully as he recalled the remaining kingdom where humans were still widespread back in his world. The kingdom was one of the few still resisting, but just like everyone else who submitted, they would fall in time. The only reason they were still standing was because of their geographic location that allowed for prolonged battles, but the humans on this planet? They were far too weak. The dragon rose in the air once more as he shouted commands and made his way into the field of battle once again. Pity for the lower natives was placed aside as he saw the deaths that continued to occur on both sides. If he kills them and breaks their wills in totality, he would reduce many more future deaths that will occur because of prolonged battles. He would put aside his injury and go all out, showing them a taste of true strength so this fight can end faster for both sides. Kazuhiko had just gotten the word that the black dragon had circled around the battlefield a few minutes back. He got up from the location he was recuperating in as he excitedly stood up and rushed out. The beast had come at a perfect time when he was almost finished recovering his mana. This meant he would get to fight this monster with his full strength. His excited body moved to the front of the battlefield as his katana was pulled out. He listened to the woes and screams of the battles as his blood pumped, and he looked to the skies. They were clear and blue, with the light dimming as dusk was setting in. His blade cut down any beasts he neared as he kept his focus in the sky, waiting expectantly for the figure of the large beast to show itself. He didn't wait too long as a majestic beast appeared in the skies, its wide wings outstretched as a roar escaped its dangerous jaws. The ground below it became hectic as its forces were bolstered and fought back harder. Kazuhiko became excited at the sight and his body began ballooning twice his normal size. He put strength in his legs and, like a string, shot up into the sky towards the large flying reptile. Dominator's sword wave was casted as his katana began to glow and released a destructive wave towards the right wing of the dragon. The instant he neared, the dragon seemed to have sensed him in the air and shifted its body at a great speed. The large wings that were parallel to the ground suddenly shifted upwards and Dominator's sword wave was evaded. The world slowed down as the dragon's piercing eyes looked at this human that had a wild look in his eyes as he fell down towards the ground. Kazuhiko's body that had lost its momentum smashed into the ground, his face still turned up to the skies as he was falling down. The dragon that had evaded its strike turned its head down and was now diving towards him. He let out a laugh as his katana began glowing again, ready to release another attack as soon as the dragon neared, but the dragon's dive was stopped prematurely as its wings spread out and it floated in their air, its wide jaws opening instead. Dragon's breath made its appearance for the first time in this world. Vroom. The field rumbled as roiling flames spread out from the wide jaws of the dragon like a fan and struck the ground. Any beast or hunter that was remotely near the breath disintegrated. Kazuhiko's figure couldn't be seen on the ground. The dragon used its sharp senses and felt another sword wave coming from the sky. The hunter striking down had a devilish expression as he forced every ounce of strength from his body. The moment he had felt the heat emanating from the dragon's jaws, he had sprung up in the air even faster than the first time, the breath barely missing him as he rose in the air and unleashed his attacks. When he was going down, Dominator's sword wave finally landed on the back of the hard scales of the dragon. Ding! Like metal striking on metal, an unpleasant sound came out as only a white scratch could be seen on the dragon's back. Kazuhiko was shocked at this level of defense as his face turned serious and he landed on the back of the dragon. A furious roar came out from the beast as it felt the puny human stepping on its body, and it began rolling in the air as its wide wings provided a rotational force. Kazuhiko held onto the hard scales as the dragon rolled in the air, swinging his katana and trying to damage the beast's body as much as possible. Blade dance was casted as he let go of the scale he was holding on and moved beautifully in the direction the dragon was rotating in. Countless white scratches appeared on the dragon's body as his dance propelled him to use the force the dragon was making into his own use. His adrenaline rushed as he laughed in the air, for he was doing something that made him truly thrilled. He was dancing in the air with a dragon. The white scratches started to become dense with every swing of his sword, and he felt like he would soon see the blood spill out of this dragon's body if he kept going. Seeing the human still holding on and even sullying his powerful body, the dragon stopped rolling in the air as black smoke covered it entirely. A second later, the large body completely disappeared as a human figure stood in the air, impetuous. A loud shout came out of the dragon in human form as it casted esoteric energy manipulation, forming a transparent fly swatter in the air that smashed into the body of the shocked Kazuhiko. Slap! Like a speeding bullet, the hunter's figure smashed into the ground in less than a second. The impact was gruesome, taking away the hopes of many hunters that were watching the dark sword battle the dragon. The beast in human form stood majestically in the sky as it used its ability again, this time forming a wide transparent spear with a sharp edge that rushed down to where the unbridled hunter was. Kazuhiko laid on the ground, feeling a few bones broken as he saw the enormous spear covering his entire view, so he actually wasn't strong enough to stand against this beast. A devilish smile came back on his face as his bloodied mouth let out painful laughs. It was a good fight. If he was weak and meant to die, he would face it head-on. The bloodied laugh rang out as the immense transparent spear came down. A rushing rank A hunter and those ranked lower filled into the burnt surroundings and performed their skills, aiming them towards the spear to slow its descent. As the smell of despair spread out in the surroundings, there was a flash of green light as the spear thundered down and drowned the laughs of the man about to face his death. Chapter 58, Inundation 1. The scene in front of me was so messy I couldn't even begin to describe it. The battlefield coming to my view was 10 times as deadlier as the one I just rushed from. An entire half a day was spent with me speeding through the skies atop my first summon. The summon was truly great as it didn't tire at all these past 12 hours. That's right, 12 hours I had been riding the beast across the skies. Every part of my body felt tired and cramped. I passed through the entirety of the empire and entered the border between the two countries more than 4 hours ago. After that I passed by the new lands in the United Federation. They were only blurry lines that I passed by, so I didn't get to enjoy any new sights or see how the people here were living. I only pulled out my phone after every hour to check how much closer I was to the coordinates. I had gained another level of confidence after learning these two new rank S skills, especially this summon that I didn't fully know the bounds of its strength yet. With its rapid flying speed, we reached the battlefield where forces of the United Federation were battling with thousands of beasts. The first scene that I saw was a humongous transparent spear rushing down towards a figure on the ground that was actually laughing at the incoming strike. His body seemed heavily injured and he couldn't move, but I still felt amazed at the man's attitude as death neared him. I recalled the words of the mysterious being that pulled me into that space while feeling the strength of the humanoid figure that was standing in the air. It was the most powerful thing I could sense in this field, so it made me wonder if it was the target I was looking for. I would put all that aside and act first though, as I moved to save the man that was actually laughing at the face of death. He seemed to fit the description of reckless that the mysterious being mentioned. I detached myself from the body of my summon as I commanded it to block the spear with its full strength while I casted Guardian's Light towards the injured figure on the ground. Boom. A loud impact resounded as we fully appeared in the battlefield, grabbing the attention of most of the stronger forces as the 5-meter abomination came into view. Its steeled green muscles were shining in the light as it completely dispersed the heavy spear that was rushing down. The hunter on the ground let his laughs out easier as he stopped bleeding from the advent of Guardian's Light and looked at my summon and I with great interest. I looked back at his figure that was standing up and asked just to be sure, "Is that thing up there the black dragon?" There was a pause as he seemed shocked at my nonchalant tone, before he answered and said, "Yeah, that's him." I nodded as I placed my full attention towards the humanoid figure in the skies that was letting out ferocious power without even moving. My summon had come back to my side in case I was to meet another beast that was too fast for me to notice. I was becoming confident, but I didn't want to be hit with deadly attacks that I could prevent. The figure in the sky looked to me as it spoke. "More and more of you just come out like cockroaches." It had a furious expression as it said this, and I wondered just what had the man below done to anger the beast this much. "Yes, sorry about that. I had an aim to save somebody and stop the rampage of a dragon, and it seems like I've completed one and now I have to move on to the other." Silence prevailed as my words seemed to have hit a nerve. The humanoid figure didn't reply as it used a skill and multiple transparent weapons began appearing in the air. The weapons ranged from spears, swords, hammers, and even fly swatters. They continued forming until they blocked the sky. I was amazed at this type of skill as I sent a command to my summon and used war cry towards the surrounding hunters, "Move away from this area immediately, or you might lose your life." My voice thundered throughout the area as hunters scrambled away at the sight of the numerous sizable weapons that appeared in the sky. My virulent abomination spread its wings out wide as it disappeared and flew towards the dragon. A noxious blast erupted from it the moment it neared, dyeing the transparent weapons green. The weapons still in the air began to crack and disappear at a speed visible to the naked eye as the dragon was pushed back from the blast and looked over at my summon in shock. I was expectantly watching as I waited to see the power of this rank S summon, and how it fared against a genuine rank S monster. Roar. A loud howl resounded from the figure as black smoke roiled out and it quickly changed into the form of a huge black dragon. I looked at this figure in awe as the spiked hand of the virulent abomination neared and smashed into it, pushing the figure towards the ground. It really was a beast that was at another level, as it fell down briefly before rough winds flew out and it rushed in the skies towards the summon. Its wide jaws opened as a jet of flames colored the sky crimson. The fast strike directly impacting the virulent abomination. When the flames ended, the summon in the sky had its wings torn, but still as lively as ever. Without the support of wings, it began falling until it smashed into the ground, releasing a howl towards the dragon in the air as noxious gas erupted all around it. Watching the summon withstand the extreme heat of a rank S beast's attack, a smile bloomed on my face. I watched its ruptured wings and raised my hands towards it, causing it to explode in a puddle of venomous blast as everything around it melted. The hunters had long since disappeared from the nearby area. Only the stupidly courageous hunter that was laughing on the face of death being visible not too far off. He was holding tight a sharp katana in his hands as his eyes watched the ongoing battle with rapt attention. The moment the virulent abomination on the ground exploded, a malachite runic circle appeared in the skies as I casted summon virulent abomination once more. A second passed as a brand new beast appeared from the runic circle, its wide bat wings and large green body as good as new. This confirmed the conjecture that only one could be summoned at a time. And I found another useful method of attacking as I recalled the dangerous blast the old abomination released as it exploded when I summoned another one. The dragon looked at our two figures with a deadly glare as it spoke. "I've played around with you fools long enough." Chapter 59, Inundation 2. I looked to the newly appeared human and the winged creature it was commanding. These natives actually had someone of this level of strength, surprising me even more. The human that had dirted my scales was about to die, only for this one to swoop in and save him in the last minute. The issue was that this new one actually posed a threat to me. Well, his beast did anyways. I had brought myself to the point of empathizing with the creatures of this world because of the similarity of events they were going through, but that was the wrong choice. If I wanted to be successful in my goal in this small world, I had to be ruthless. I have my own people to worry about. With that being said, I would take care of this threat in front of me first. My injury should not flare up as long as I do not completely go all out, so I started by casting my ability, Draconic Summoning. The usual ferocious winged half-dragons filled the air, their numbers growing to 100 in a blink. These would be used to keep the vile summoned creature at bay while I take down its master. That was the fastest solution after all. I commanded the half-dragons to attack, and the winged creature went towards them at high speed. It was powerful enough that a single strike from it melted through the body of my summons, and it released a poisonous gas that spread out and melted more than 20 of the half-dragons in a blink. I became even more serious seeing this, and I realized I only had a few seconds to make my move. Against the human, if he dies, the creature dies with him. My wings vibrated as I converged the wind elements around me, and my body disappeared from my location, shooting towards the human in the distance. I passed the position in the sky where the poisonous creature was fighting against my summons, and knew victory was in sight as the creature would never catch up to me before I can take down its master. It was truly vile, as it had nearly taken down almost all the half-dragons, but the few seconds it bought me was enough. My chest rumbled as I let out another one of my fiery breaths towards the figure of the human. VOM. I felt an impact and left no room for mistake as I formed multiple pillars of purple lightning that also crashed wide at the location of the figure. When the explosion cleared, a surprising sight presented itself. What? The green creature was the one that could be seen at the point of impact. I was nearing its position so that I could finish off its master, but I met it instead. I tried pulling back as its poison was very powerful, but didn't succeed in time as the creature exploded. Boom. Ugh, green smoke covered my body as I was pushed back. The creature had self-destructed and left me some breathing room. But it didn't last for long as another one exactly like it appeared in the air once more. Fucking come on. I was becoming furious at the large pool of mana the human seemed to have as my senses tracked him to a position far behind me. He must have escaped my breath and summoned the creature where he was so he could have it self-destruct and wound me. If I didn't watch myself in this fight, I might actually come out on the losing end. I wasn't too worried though, as my strong life essence had already pushed out the poison that was attached to my body. Also, with the reckless way this human was using his energy to summon and unsummon his creature, he would run out soon enough and become my prey, to handle the newly appeared creature that was coming towards me. I reinforced my body with multiple mana barriers. This was a dragon's strength that many beings dreaded. Dragons had nearly boundless mana pools and an expert use of the mana around them, making it nearly impossible for someone of the same level to take them on. It would be the same against this human. Do you really think your mana reserves would match mine? The barriers stacked all over my body as my claws felt the impact against the winged abomination. Every one of its strikes destroyed some of the barriers protecting me, but I supplied the mana and restored them right after. The creature could actually match my speed as its strikes became more ferocious in the sky. Every few seconds, it would release a noxious blast of gas that almost teared apart all the barriers I had. The human watched the battle with rapt attention in the sky, meaning the summoning of this beast should be his most powerful skill. But how many more times can you summon it after I destroy this one? My body increased its size as my strengthened tail whipped out and smashed into the poisonous creature. The sharp spikes pierced through its hard muscles, and the creature clutched onto me as it exploded. Boom! Significant damage was taken from this blast, but I would heal from it in a few minutes. I looked up to the human to see if he had the reserves to summon another one of those creatures, but he stood still with a calm expression and rose his right hand towards me. Brilliant light covered my body as I healed the injuries and pushed out the poison at a fast pace as I prepared for the human's last-ditch attack. No matter how calm he looked, I knew he was only putting up a brave front. Come on, bring your last attack. Let me withstand it and show you the terror of a genuine black dragon. Right after, rumbling ensued in our surroundings as I felt a surge of energy from all corners around me. Energy that was in no way lower to my conflagrant breath condensed above and below me, and to my left and right, transparent outlines of shifting mountains appeared as they rumbled, and the heat increased to an alarming degree with me at the center. Okay, what? Boom! suffocation. That was all I felt as I continued to cast multiple energy barriers that continued to be shredded the moment they were created. Thick magma was assaulting me from both sides, the high temperatures searing my scales the moment I didn't replace the barriers fast enough. I felt extreme pain as the injury in my chest flared up and made the situation even worse. Huff, huff, huff. I released bated breaths as the decimation around me cleared. Half of my body was charred as I looked to the human above me in fear. I could help but let out a scream. What the hell are you? This thing, this being, he definitely wasn't human. Now that is just insulting. His same nonchalant reply came out, making the gears in my mind spin faster as I thought of options out of this. Don't start thinking too much. Hey, race some more. He disregarded me as his arms stayed in the air. Multiple rumblings resounding as transparent volcanoes formed around me once more, and a green circle that brought to light the poisonous beast shined out. I looked at the sight in front of me in trepidation as I wondered, just what the hell had I gotten myself into? Chapter 60 Mercy? Hunters and beasts overlooking the battlefield had moved away from each other as they watched the apocalyptic scene. A majestic dragon was being cornered and showered with an abundance of unbelievably destructive spells. At the same time, a grotesque beast was pouncing on the dragon and shredding the scales on its body to a bleeding mess as its poison spread. The dragon crushed to the ground as one of its wings had been torn. Spurts of flames blew out of its mouth as the energy around it bubbled. The grotesque beast ignored all of this as it continued to rain attacks on the body of the dragon, its body, releasing noxious blasts of gas every now and then. The strong body of the dragon gradually could not endure, and a voice was heard, "Please." My voice was low, but it was aimed at a specific person in the skies. My energy reserves were at the lowest as this horrendous creature continued its relentless attacks. The wound I incurred as I desked down had flared up and was causing me to not be able to focus. I repeated again, "Please, stop." We were the same positions. Our lands were invaded and taken over, our people forced to submit and pioneer other worlds. I just wanted to make things a bit better for my people. The man looked down at me coldly. His summon had stopped ravaging me for this instant. "Do you know how many people you and your forces have killed?" I turned somber as I heard this question. "I know, but our hands were forced. We really were backed into a corner. I couldn't even bear the treatment that the royal family was receiving. How much worse would it be for the commoners?" "No, your actions are your own responsibility." The man shook his head as if I were wasting his time. I had to try harder if I wanted to come of this alive. My brain was working overtime as I tried to find a way out of this. The beings that sent me here, they will send more once they know of my failure. I can work with you to fight off the ones that come in the future. Right, any sane person would want help for droves of coming enemies. Even if I had to heal under somebody else's boots, I could at least survive for the time being. I waited with ragged breaths as I looked to the human in the skies. Only 2 words rang out. "No thanks." 2 words that spelled my end. My emotions churned as I saw the poisonous creature lunge towards me again. Anger, frustration, despair, that was all I felt. Why? Why did things have to go this way for us? Enslaved or killed, we couldn't change our fates. My defenses could no longer withstand the creature's strikes. I couldn't form any more mana barriers around me. My reserves were depleted. In a few seconds, my right wing was torn off. The excruciating pain actually dulled as I fell down deeper into despair. "I'm sorry, everyone. I wasn't able to do it." I looked to the forces of half-dragons and dragonoid creatures behind me that were madly screaming and leaving behind any reservations to try and save me, but it would all be for naught. My left wing was then torn off. I could only use my tail and claws to block the strikes of the poisonous creature, but its poison had already spread throughout my body, dwindling my strength even further. Bated breaths came out as my life force neared its end. I looked at the unexplainable human in the sky as a few thoughts passed before the darkness came. Would he be able to lead his people to a different path? I would never be able to know the answer as the world that had been going in slow motion resumed and the relentless beast continued pounding me. My vision blurred and my eyes closed to meet the eternal darkness. I looked to the screeching beasts that watched their boss be torn to pieces by the virulent abomination. A moment after the dragon's death, the world had began shaking. I recalled the mysterious being's words as I commanded my summon to focus its rampage on the thousands of beasts rushing about in the battlefield. An uncomfortable feeling like a wound that was healing had begun spreading throughout my body as the world started shaking. I went to the ground to grab the cores and what seemed like a skill book that dropped while I observed the changes around me. The world's energy seemed to be bubbling and I heard the mysterious voice once more, this time more clearly, without any headaches. The hardest part is done, leave the rest to me. Do not resist the addition to the system of power that is occurring. When it is complete, you will have a multitude of options for your direction of strength. I nodded my head towards this mysterious voice as it mentioned things I didn't completely understand. I was expectantly waiting for the revenge the voice mentioned after this, the enemies behind this, if they sent their forces here. It meant that I would be going to where they were to have a possibility of revenge, so where were they hiding? Vengeful emotions rose from my calmness as I recalled the pain I wanted those enemies to feel. I didn't spare the dragon, no matter what words he was saying, and I wouldn't spare any of them either. The changes around us increased as the virulent abomination continued to decimate the forces of the beasts around the battlefield. The small, uncomfortable feeling I felt gradually intensified, and I stayed in the air as I waited for the changes to finish, and the surprises that would come thereafter. Kazuhiko was baffled at the level of strength that the newly appeared hunter displayed as he battled the dragon. He had thought his own strength was great, but he was completely wrong. His eyes shined as he looked towards this strong figure. If his memory did not fail him, this was the fast-rising hunter called Noah Osmont from the Blessed Empire. The hunter had thrashed the terrible dragon like it was nothing, casting skills he never thought were possible. That was the strength he wanted. That was the goal he had to reach. In an unknown space, a mysterious hexagonal prism was spinning rapidly. It seemed to be working overtime as it controlled the energies of everything around it to bend down to its wishes. It felt violated when foreign invaders came and woke it from its slumber. It watched powerlessly as masses of its people were massacred, but it was young and it learned fast. It began by making drastic decisions that beings like it would normally never do. It chose a few champions to stand against the invaders. And one of these champions was given a privilege that most knowledgeable beings in the universe would be shocked to hear, but this mysterious being felt like it still wasn't enough. So it was defying expectations and bending the rules once more to create a function that would make its champions even stronger. Essence was furiously being absorbed and used as a plain blue box that was showing blank attributes, skills, and equipment was getting a new addition right below it. Most of this essence came from this being's own reserves, with the rest coming from deaths of the many beasts that continued to meet their grisly ends. Even now, the death of the final S-rank beast gave enough essence to accelerate this process. This new addition flickered in and out of existence, almost as if there was a restriction preventing it from coming to life. It felt as if it was something that should not be allowed to appear. The addition gradually became more and more stable as it could clearly be made out. Blue words shined brightly at the bottom of the base of the panel. They read, "Skill Combination." If you like this audiobook, please rate it and subscribe so you don't miss new releases.